Hi, in this video, I'm just going to run through the timeline for the scheme for registration, assuming that you've graduated in July 2023 and you're starting the pre-reg around the end of July 2023. And the scheme is designed to last around 14-15 months is the average. The total available time is 2 years and 3 months, or four goes at the OSCE. But if you plan things well, you can get through in approximately a year. But you have to be really aware of the timings in order to hit that point. And these are the timings that the college give on the college website. And I'll leave a link in the notes to direct you to that as well. So have a look at them and see what they say. But the basics of it, they say, is that the first visit should be 6 weeks after you start. The second visit should be 4 months after you start. The third visit should be 6 months after you start. And the fourth visit should be 7 months after you start. And then you can get into visit 5 and 6, depending on how things have gone for the first few visits. Typically, it's organisation that creates most of the issues. For example, in visit 1, if you've not learned how to use Zoom correctly, and you can't share your screen and all these things, you've got a 2-hour assessment, and the assessor has to go through a few different things. So if you can't do the sharing, then your time will get eaten up quite quickly. Visit 2 has lots of different things that need to be covered, and again, if you're poorly organised and you lose 2 or 3 minutes per competency just looking for things, well, if you do 2 times 30, suddenly 60 minutes of time has elapsed just looking for stuff. So in the visit 2 course, I go through tips for getting yourself organised. Visit 3 is the first time that you meet the assessor, and then there's some direct observations, and you need a member of staff or a simulated patient for various things. And in that one, it's not uncommon for a pre-reg to start looking for a patient on the day, or the patient that they've got planned is busy doing a dispense or doing X, Y, and Z, and suddenly 15 minutes have run by where the assessment's just basically just doing nothing, waiting for this member of staff to become available. And that's the reality of being in practice. You can't just have somebody stand there for your benefit for ages and ages. But these are all things that they happen. So what I did was I converted the weeks into the weeks and months format into just a consistent weeks format, and then I've written an assumed start date of the 1st of April, which I think gives you an average position. Some people will have started a week or so before, and some people will have started a week after. But if you started on the 1st of August, I think that's April, sorry, August. If you started on the 1st of August, then your visit 1 should be approximately the 12th of September. And then your visit 2, which should be 16 weeks after your start, approximately, because months don't translate into exact numbers of weeks, but I've just done 1 month equals 4 weeks. So 16 weeks after you start, you should be doing your visit 2 last couple of weeks of November. Visit 3 should be approximately 2 months later, so about 8 weeks later. So I'll put mid-January, and you should be coming up to the end of stage 1, approximately mid-February. Now, what you have to be aware of is that is almost the perfect scenario. In reality, your assessor will have holidays, your supervisor will have holidays, and you may well have holidays or functions that you need to attend, and so those dates will move around a bit. But the key thing is to have those dates fixed in your mind, that this is what you're aiming for. If you're, if for whatever reason you need to move things around, then by all means move them around. But you will then have the issue that if your aim is to do the July OSCE, then you will cut down the time that you have available for stage two. So the OSCE dates for July 2024 have been released, but the cut-off dates haven't been. But based on the previous information, the cut-off date will be sort of early to mid-June, somewhere around mid-June. So if you want to complete stage two before mid-June, you should be expecting to take about 8 weeks for that. So if we look at 13th of February, so then we say 13th of March, 13th of April, 13th of May, and then actually 13th of June. So you've got almost 4 months to get through that. Now, the chances of getting through the stage two at your first attempt are not that high. Simply because they are a really, really high pressure situation. And even with preparation, it will really push you out of your comfort zone. You'll have a completely different assessor and a mystery patient. You won't know anything in advance. And by the time you get to that point, you will have tested a good number of patients. And although you may think that you're working from scratch, you are not. You've got loads of information before you even begin. And therefore, to be put in a position where you have no information will really be quite tricky. But if you follow the timeline for stage one, then when you get to stage two, you've got plenty of time to have another go at it before the July OSCE cut-off date. So that gives you a real, feel for how things are going to go. Be aware that the vast majority, not the vast majority, that's the wrong thing. More people will sit the September OSCE than sit the July OSCE. So this is in general. And so you have to think that July OSCE is your aim, but September OSCE is probably, more realistic. And that will allow you to sort of have a little bit less pressure through the scheme. This timeline, although this is following what the college say, there are inevitably issues which mean that for whatever reason you don't progress quite as quickly. If you progress at this pace, then that's fantastic. But you shouldn't be thinking, "Oh, I'm losing time. I'm falling behind," because more people will do the September OSCE than do the July OSCE. So that's just part of how these things are. The average time, I think, is around 14 or 15 months. So if you start on the 1st of August, you're most likely to be doing the October OSCE, September-October OSCE. But if you're well organised, you've understood the requirements of stage one, you've understood the types of evidence that you need, and you've prepared. Visit two is really one of the big critical ones for that. And they're all critical, but visit two is really important because it's so much paperwork and planning that's required. And I go through that on the visit two course. And visit three also has a different set of complications that you have to work through. Again, I run through that on the visit three course, so I don't need to run through that for this. But this is just to give you an idea. If you're not overly fussed about the timing, then then that's fine. But I thought this was a good way to visualize it. When you do get to visit one, at the end of it, the assessor will run through how things went with you and your supervisor, and then they'll ask you, when do you want to do visit two? When do you want to do visit three? And it's not uncommon for people to be sort of sitting there and thinking, I haven't even thought about it. Which is okay, but if you've planned it out properly, then you can work towards things. Whereas if you let things slide, things slide. So it's just some thoughts. If you need any advice or you want to just get some thoughts, then just send me an email or message me through the messaging system, and that'll work. Brilliant.